Okay, great. So can you see the presentation now? Because I can. That's great news. Yes, super. Okay, so we're going to talk about new productive task, and we're going to talk about some tips and preparation strategies. Yay, we're here. Let's start then. So our plans for today. We're going to first have a look at SEFRA, because this is the most important thing probably for all exams, because if we look at SEFRA, we can see the levels that we expect our candidates to demonstrate. So for example, if we speak about A2 key, so it is the same as flyers, as you know, probably if you're preparing students for that, just the content is a bit different. So we're going to talk about key for schools and key for other people, let's put it this way. The main difference is just the content. So all the format, all the focus of the task, it's all the same. What else is important about SEFRA before we actually start is that SEFRA provides us with can-do statements for each level. So we know what to expect from our students, and it helps us as teachers when we want to assess our students. So we're not going to talk about assessment a lot today, but I do recommend having a look at these can-do statements, at these descriptors, just to know what to expect, to know what to teach, and not probably to expect too much from our students, because still key is just A2, so it's not a very, very high level, because very often we as teachers expect perfection, so don't expect perfection at key. Okay, so the main aims of this webinar is going to be the brief overview of the updates starting from January 2020. We're only going to talk about the productive tasks, so it's going to be speaking and writing. We're going to have a closer look at them, all of them, and then we talk about some preparation tips and strategies for some of them, again, for the ones that cause more difficulties than the others. So I guess it's time to start. Well, Cambridge has done a lot of research, and as a result of this research, Cambridge has provided all these changes to the exams. So, of course, we have some reasons. So, for example, we had feedback from exam takers, from teachers, and as a result of this feedback, as a result of consulting all those people, this is the brief description of the changes that Cambridge provides since January 2020. But as you can see here, I've got some gaps. So can you help me to fill the gaps? You get the first letter, and I would like you to complete the gaps. So what are the main changes in the exam? Can you do that to me? Opportunities, okay. Any other options probably? Objectives, ooh, I like that. Okay, more objectives. Be a good idea. Okay, options. All right, what about the second one starting with an S? Ability. Okay, so you're with A already. What about the S one? Abilities and aims? Maybe. Shorter papers. Unfortunately, no. All right. Abilities suggest. Okay. What about A? So you said abilities and aims, right? And the last one with I. What could that be? That's right. Suggest starting with an S, maybe. What about the last one with I? IQ. Thanks a lot. That's a nice option, really. I'm not really sure we can do anything with that. Independent. All right. Anything else? Improving skills. Well, if we're lucky, they will improve. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. Well, opportunities, well done. I guess it was the easiest one. So there are really more opportunities to produce some spoken and written language in reading and writing for preliminary, and the same is for key. So balance for key between reading and writing is now more, I don't know, more visual probably, because there's more authenticity in reading. They all have the reading pieces which they come across in their real life. And interaction. So this is one of my favorite tasks here, because if you've been preparing students for the previous format of key, you know that people, the candidates didn't have a lot of chances to interact to each other. And that was a problem, because they only had to ask and answer questions, and it didn't really give them any opportunities to demonstrate their abilities to interact, their abilities to communicate. And unlike now, they can do it, and we'll have a look at the new task, which provides them with all these opportunities. So this is one of my favorite changes, to be honest, in this exam. In general, the exams are now more challenging than they used to be, both of them, and key also. However, if you have a look at the new format of key and then have a look at the new format of preliminary, the old format of FCE, and so on, you will see that the tasks and the focus of the tasks is the same. So very often we have a question, why should people take key? Why should they start with this, but not with FCE, for example? Because now you can see this progress. So when you start with key, you already know all the format and all the tasks. So when you go then to preliminary, then first, and so on, you're already familiar with the format. So it's easier for you to deal with that. That's why for our students, we do recommend starting with key. And I know it's a problem when you talk to parents, and parents ask, like, why? We have to, of course, the exams are not free, so we know that. But yeah, it is a good reason for parents also. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the changes. Well, first of all, the changes in listening are the following. So there are some new tasks. Some tasks have been revised, and some tasks, if you don't see the task in the list, so it means that the task doesn't exist anymore. So we'll just have a look at the new ones. So in listening part 1, for example, we don't have any changes. The same in listening part 2. So it used to be part 5. Now it's part 2, and this is the one when you have to insert a number, a date, or a time here. So spelling is important, and it's recommended to use digits. So if we speak about listening part 3, we'll have a very brief overview of that. The main change is that the answers now come from both speakers. So it used to be like an interview. Now we have it from both speakers, so your students should be aware of that. The completely new listening part 4. So if you've taken, or if you're preparing students for any other exams except for key, you're probably familiar with this type of task, when they have 5 short texts and multiple choice and 3 multiple choice options. So what's important here is that now it tests feelings, opinions, and gist. So you have to understand the main idea and some basic feelings of the speakers. So listening part 5, again, if we're speaking about updates, it used to be part 2, but the level of complexity has resulted in getting the 5th place, let's put it this way. So you can see the progress. So the first task was very basic, and then the level of complexity rises. So here you have the context and the question. This is something that can help us as teachers. And you need to match 2 lists of items. There are 2 extra options, so your students should be aware of that. When I mentioned the context and the question, why it is important? Because our students, it's really difficult to deal with this task because they sometimes get confused. Well, not sometimes, all the time. And in this case, context and question can help us as teachers during the prediction stage. So we can elicit any ideas about the future listening. So just to activate some background knowledge might be very helpful. So never forget about it. Okay, so now we come to the productive part of our exam. And if we speak about key, and key for schools, we can see that reading and writing are combined in this exam. So if you have a closer look at the changes, you can see that 2 of the tasks have been revised, and there's one completely new task, so it's a story. All the other tasks have either changed their places or just they've been shortened, for example. So you will get the presentation, so you don't really need to start panicking and start reading it as fast as you can. We're going to have a close look. So if we speak about the first part of reading and writing task for key, we can see that it used to look like this. Now it has a different layout, but the basic idea is the same. So you have some short notice or advertisement, and you need to choose the sentence which describes it best. So you need to understand the main message here. Basically, the focus of the task is the same. It's only the way it looks that is different. So we move on to part 2. Used to be it's similar to part 4. And this is when you have 3 short texts. Again, it's similar to all the higher level exams. This is when you have 3 short texts with some description of people. So you have to read for gist, of course, and then for some specific information. I know that this part of the exam also causes some difficulties to our learners. So I highly recommend first to read all the texts for gist without paying any attention to the options. So you start with some prediction, of course, then you read for gist, and then you probably read it again. And after that, you may have a look at the options. So this is one of the ways of doing it. And otherwise, the options will just distract you, the questions. However, you can also read it once and then read the answers, the questions, sorry, and the answers. So it's up to you. However, the text always goes first. So don't start with the options, don't start with the questions. All right, what is also good about the new format is that now it's just multiple choice. So you don't have right, wrong, doesn't say options anymore, which I think is really great because doesn't say is quite a confusing one. So for both, actually, for teachers and students, it was really difficult to explain. Now we don't have this thing anymore. So speaking about part 3, you can see that it's similar to old part 4. This is the part where you have a longer text compared to the previous task. But again, you have a multiple choice. So all the questions are about the same text, and you need to choose the correct option here. So again, absolutely the same algorithm. When you look at the picture, you try to predict. You look at the headline, you try to think what the text might be about. You may ask your students to think about some keywords that might be here in this text. You might ask them about the main idea at the prediction stage still. And after that, they have to check. This text is quite a long one for key, or might be. So it's really important for your students to read it up to the end and get the main idea first. After that, you may either look at the questions or read again to get a better understanding. But still, well, the prediction stage is one of the crucial ones. So we're moving to part 4, which is a combination of the old part 2 and part 5. This is a multiple choice. Again, if you have a closer look, you will see that it is similar to other exams, like higher level exams, first CAE probably. And this is when you have to choose the best option which fits the gap. So the focus here is lexis and grammar, and probably even more lexis. As a rule, one of the options is completely irrelevant, and you will have to choose between the other two. The basic principle of teaching, of preparation, is the same. Yeah, you look at the picture, you look at the name of the text, you read it for gist, and then you read again, trying to think what might be in the gap. So you need to identify the part of speech. Probably you already have some options, and then you need to look at what is before. So you just basically look left and right, what's before and after the gap. So the option should fit both lexically and grammatically. Okay, so when we speak about reading and writing part 5, which used to be part 7, but now it's been shortened, and this is one of the most challenging tasks for everyone, because it's an open close task when unfortunately you don't have any options. How can you approach this task? Again, yeah, and I can't really emphasize that more. Prediction, gist, details. Again, you read for gist, you understand the main idea, and only after that you start completing the gaps. What is also important here? So what kind of words can be in these gaps? I'm not asking you to solve the task. I'm not asking you to think about these particular gaps, but in general, what kind of words can be there? What parts of speech can we use? Prepositions, pronouns, exactly. Is that all? Articles, conjunctions, determiners, articles, yay. Can we have any verbs apart from auxiliary verbs? Some meaningful words? Sure. In what case? I mean, if we're thinking about a verb, it might have some synonyms, for example, and how can we guess this synonym? How can we read? Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. We can use, so just one more time, we can use prepositions, pronouns, we can use conjunctions, adjectives sometimes, yes. Usually if it's a part of a collocation or a set phrase. But in general, what we use in an open close task, it's just some functional words. So something that doesn't have synonyms, otherwise you can't really read the minds of the writers of this exam, so you can't guess the word. That's why only functions. Okay. One of the most important things here is also spelling. So if the word is misspelled, unfortunately you don't get the point. So be very, very careful with that. All right, let's move to the next task. So it's reading and writing part 6, used to be part 9, and there are some changes here. So in general, you have to write an email, and in this email, so this is an example of a task taken from a handbook. So here you can see that there are 3 prompts. So this is basically your task. You write an email to your friend Tony, and in your email you have to ask to go swimming with you on Saturday. You have to say where you want to go swimming, and how you will travel there. So all these 3 points have to be covered. Otherwise, you just don't get enough points. I mean, don't get enough, well, your grade is going to be lower. So in general, you can get 15 points for this. And when I was, remember at the very beginning, I was talking about SEFRA. So when we assess our students, again, we need to refer back to SEFRA. We need to refer back to can-do statements and see what is expected from our students at this level. Yeah. So, and then we have to assess, because sometimes our teachers, and yeah, I know we all want and expect perfection, but sometimes we as teachers want to see a real email, so something that we are able to produce. But at key level, the email is quite short, quite basic, and the vocabulary is sometimes quite basic. So again, the can-do statements, they describe it perfectly well. So don't expect too much from your students. However, all 3 points should be covered, and they have to write about 25 words or more. And this is always it causes a lot of questions. So what does this more mean? 25 words or more. How much more? What do you think? Do you have any ideas? So it's like 25, 50, or 100, or 35. Okay, it used to be from 25 to 35. Yeah, remember? 50. Okay. What if the candidates 35 up to 10? So it's like 35 again. Yeah. 40. All right. So the sky is the limit. However, there are some traps. So first of all, Cambridge suggests that 25 words it's enough to cover all 3 prompts, to have the conventions of an email like opening and closing, and to demonstrate some vocab and grammar, which is expected at A2 level. But if the candidate has a better level, a higher level than just key, than just A2, so this is a chance for the candidate to demonstrate it. The only problem here is, first of all, the candidates are limited with the answer sheet. So really, you can't write 200 words there. It's absolutely impossible. And if you can write 200 words, then probably you should go and take first. But if you're like a 35, 50 words, that would probably be okay. However, the more words you write, the more opportunities you have to make mistakes. And also try to be careful with that, because you're still trying to demonstrate the best and to demonstrate what you can do. But be ambitious with your language. You might get points for that. What else? Yeah, about the word length. So also be very careful with timing, because if you write too many, you there's always a chance to spend too much time doing that. So as a result, you won't have enough time for the other tasks. So probably 25, 35, 40 would be okay. All right. So and this is the completely new part. Have you seen anything like that before? If you're teaching for any other exams, does it look familiar? 3 pictures, write a story. Yeah, exactly, that's flyers. Very similar to flyers, just the pictures are different. So we expect different content here. And what else? Well, they are black and white. So they have 3 pictures, beg your pardon, and they need to cover all 3 pictures. So mention all 3 main events here in these pictures. And the word limit is about 25 words or more. Again, be careful with your timing, be careful with your language. So try to avoid writing too long stories. but this is a chance for you to demonstrate your higher level. So also, it is designed to cover narrative and linking. When we speak about narrative, like narrative skills, we don't expect, we really don't expect them to be great writers. So nothing like Leo Tolstoy or anyone else. It's just that the pictures should be in the order that is given. And when we speak about narratives, so the recommended tenses would be past simple, past continuous. If you want to write it in present, then okay, write it in present. That would be present simple and present continuous. Just try to be, well, not try to be, just be consistent with your tenses. So if you start writing in one tense, please use it up to the end, to the very end of your story. Again, when we speak about linking, there would be some basic linkers like and, so, after that, then, but, so things like that. You don't have really enough opportunities to use more linkers here. Also, if we speak about narrative and linking, we had some webinars dedicated to flyers, so where I told about a story train or other techniques that might be helpful here. So it can also be used for preparation for key exams. But today we're going to have a look at different tasks which might be helpful for preparation for this particular part, the new one, the new productive one. So, and before we start talking about activities, I would like you to pay attention to this slide, because here we have some tips what you should and shouldn't do your candidates, when they're doing the exam task, the reading and writing part. So first of all, use past simple and past continuous. This is recommended. It's more natural to use it when you're telling a story. Be consistent with tenses. I've already spoken about that. So mention all three events, 35 words, linkers. And the next one is be ambitious with the language. I've already mentioned a couple of times that you might make mistakes, and don't write too many words because you have more chances to make mistakes. But still, try to use some grammar constructions that might demonstrate your higher level. Try to attempt this language. Be ambitious with that, because this is the way you can get more points and you can get a higher grade for your writing. What is important not to do during the exam? First of all, your students shouldn't write a full draft of their story or their email, because they don't have enough time for that, and they won't have a chance to rewrite it. So make a short plan, probably if you need some bullet points, brainstorm some vocabulary, just spend like a couple of minutes doing that, but don't write the full story. When we're speaking about the word limit, also, if we write too many words, we might have irrelevant information. So try to avoid this. This is the trap that I've mentioned. So you try to demonstrate a higher level, you use too many words. As a result, the words are not about the story, so it's completely irrelevant. Yeah. So the last 2 points, they go together. Okay. So as I promised, an activity. So this is an oral activity. However, you can turn it into writing after doing that. So this is an activity that works for smaller groups. So you can, if you're working with a big class, you can divide them into groups of like 4 or 5 people. That would be the perfect number of people for this. And what you should do, find 3 pictures. So these particular pictures are taken from flyers just because they're in color and I love them. And because they have 3 events, so it's easy to see the plot, to see the storyline. Well, what you basically have to do, you choose one student who's going to suffer a bit. So this is the student who is going to tell the story. The others should think about one word which is completely irrelevant to the story. So something that you can't see in the pictures. Yeah. So you have one person who is the storyteller, and the other people in the group with one word in their mind. What they have to do, so the first person starts telling a story, and his peers will have to shout out the word at so randomly, yeah, but with some intervals, like every, I don't know, 15 seconds, or when you snap. So it's up to you. And the storyteller has to incorporate this word and use it, but still keep telling the story. This is quite challenging, I should say. However, it provides students with a chance to first look at the pictures and study them in as many details as possible. So while they're trying to either tell a story and use the word, or try to find the irrelevant object in the picture, they study these pictures really, really closely. The second thing, this is an absolutely exam-like task, exam-like situation. So during the exam, they don't have any plan, they don't have any help from anyone, and they have to improvise. They have to think on their feet. They have to write the story quite quickly, so the brain has to work very, very fast. Also, and that's my favorite, it's a fun activity. And even though it's exam preparation, students love it because they listen to each other. They're really curious about the person's going to say, and if you use some completely irrelevant and fun words, it's going to be a really funny story. So just try it out. And as a follow-up task, you might want to write this story. So ask them to, you can close the pictures, ask them to remember what was in the pictures and write it. So it's up to you how to deal with that. But again, when we speak about productive tasks, it's not only about writing, because all these skills are interconnected. So you teach them to tell stories, then they can write stories. So as a follow-up task. Okay. The next one, so actually I have some sounds here, and when you get the presentation, I do ask you to listen to these sounds. They're incorporated in the presentation, and these sounds tell a story. So we're not going to listen to it now. It's going to be your homework. So when you listen to the sounds, your task is to write some words. So you choose like 3 main events in the story and write some words, some associations with it. After that, you need to draw a picture. So basically, you are creating the material, you're creating the task, the story writing task for somebody. So you have some, well, simple pictures. This is what your students, well, almost anyone can produce, especially teachers. We always say that we can't draw, but we still keep doing that. So you draw 3 small pictures with 3 main events. If your students are absolutely sure that they can't draw, they might ask a couple of words here, just to emphasize the main events in the story. And after that, they have to swap the materials. So they create, here is the full instruction. They create the task for somebody in the classroom. So what is good about it? They have 3 pictures. Yeah? They have to brainstorm the words. They have their own associations, so you get a lot of different stories. And it's not you who is creating the task, so you're not the one to blame, because they create the task for each other. You might try this out. It actually works quite well, and this is an activity that helps you to prepare your students, and not just to do the exam task. And it's not straightforward, so why not? All right. Okay, so we're moving on to the speaking part of the exam. So let's have a brief overview of the changes, and then talk about some tips and activities. Well, remember at the very beginning of the webinar, I told you that there is my favorite task now after the changes, and this is the task number 2. So the first one, yeah, not jumping from one to another. So the first one is always the same. So in introduction, this is a chance for your candidates to demonstrate some interactional skills, some personal questions like what's your name, of course, and then something about your preferences, about your free time. So they're very basic, very personal. And the next one is a great task, because now it presupposes interaction. So we'll have a closer look at it, and I tell you why I like it so much. So this is it. Your students, your candidates, will have 5 picture prompts and 1 question. So the interlocutor will ask a question, and students will have to talk about it for about like 3-4 minutes. All in all, it's going to take 5-6 minutes. So first the students will talk to each other, and then the interlocutor will ask some more questions about the same topic. So there are 5 picture prompts, and students, candidates, have to talk about them, but they don't need, unlike other exams, they don't need to speculate. They don't need to talk about the world around them, the other people in this world. They only need to talk about their preferences, so only themselves. And it's important here to give your opinion and support it with some argument. For example, I like going to the restaurant with my family because the food is tastier than at home. My mom can't cook, for example. So only their personal experience, nothing about any other people around. Also, this is an interactive task, so students have to talk to each other about these pictures. The pictures here are given more like prompts. So the main focus is on the question. The pictures are just for help. And so what do you think? How many well, do they have to describe all the pictures? What do you think? Like all 5 of them? Is it compulsory to describe all of them, and to talk about all of them? No, okay. Yeah, exactly. It's not compulsory. You don't have to talk about all 5 of them. The good number is 3. So if you only discuss like 3 prompts, then you're done. You have enough chances to demonstrate your language. You have enough chances to demonstrate your interactive skills. And if you try to describe all 5 of them, probably your answers will be a bit superficial. However, if you only aim at 3-4, you might go into the depths and demonstrate a better range of vocabulary. Okay, so please, while doing this task, so they have to answer the question, they have to talk about themselves. Reasons are crucial here, so you have to support your idea. So it shouldn't be just hanging in the air, no. We said it's an interactive task, so it's important, it's crucial, it's like the most important thing of the task. Listen to your partner. React to your partner. So this is all about interaction. if you don't understand something, if you don't understand what your partner says, or you don't understand what the interlocutor says, don't answer the question with some random ideas, because this is when there's an interaction breakdown. So ask for repetition. Could you repeat that? Sorry, I don't understand. So you will get, you will make a better impression, and well, you will answer the question correctly. 3 pictures, yes, and eye contact. Of course, this is not something that's assessed, so no one gives you points for eye contact. But it's important to maintain eye contact, because this is how you can see your partner's emotions. This is how you can see whether your partner is ready to stop speaking, whether the partner is expecting some answer from you. So this is an important part of interaction. It's just helpful. When you see your partner panicking, yeah, you can also help. So please remember about eye contact. What you should not do, your candidate should not do during the exam, if we speak about the interaction, there should be a balance, always a balance. So if one person dominates, the other one doesn't have a chance to jump into this conversation. So don't dominate and don't keep silent. There always should be a balance about in your interaction. If you feel that your partner is too talkative, just interrupt. Use some nice phrases, but interrupt him. You don't have to talk about other people, just you. And it's a good idea not to jump too fast from one picture to another, because again, it's going to be a bit too superficial. So describe one, not describe, sorry. Talk about one picture in depth. It's much better than talk about 5 of them, but just some details. So go deeper. Okay. Very quickly. So this is, it's taken from Cambridge Handbook for Key, and you can see here the assessment criteria for speaking. So as it's a new task, you have the assessment criteria here. That's why I want to focus your attention on that. So it's going to be grammar and vocabulary, obviously, pronunciation, and interactive communication. All these assessment criteria are based on the can-do statements from SEFRA. Again, we're going back to SEFRA. And I do recommend, again, to read it through and to compare your expectations from your candidates with Cambridge expectations from your candidates. It might be really different. However, dream big, and if you're a bit too strict during the lessons, your candidates might demonstrate better results. But so they will get from 0 to 5 points for each criterion. And let's have a closer look at the interactive communication criterion, because the new task is interactive and we need to know what they have to do. Well, if we speak about interaction, we mean that there's more than one person. That takes 2 to tango. So can you name some features of good interaction, some sub-skills, some features, so some probably, which words can you use to describe proper interaction? What should it be like? For example, I've got one feature. So good interaction means that there's turn taking within this conversation. Can you think of any other features of good interaction? What makes a good interaction? What skills, what should they demonstrate? So they will be attention, so listening to each other, okay. Logic, politeness, I like this. Comprehension, like, yeah, you demonstrate that you understand what the person is saying. Communication, a bit too general. Adequacy, thank you. Okay. All right, let's compare with the things I have. So I have turn taking, and if you have turn taking, you obviously have turn giving. So this is what I've mentioned already. So don't dominate, don't be too silent. And demonstrate your partner that he can take the turn. Results. A result of the task will be a good interaction because you don't have any problem to solve. You're just basically discussing things. Tolerate. Oh, I really love your options, even more than mine. Okay. Reacting. Yeah, you've mentioned that. Thank you very much. So, agreeing, disagreeing. Then, oh, sorry, can't just see it. So, exchanging ideas. Asking questions. So, exchanging ideas. This is when they probably discuss something. Yeah, do you like it? Why? Why not? Do you see why I like it? So things like that. Understanding, okay. Interrupting. We are very polite, and you've already mentioned being polite. But if the person keeps talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and suddenly you realize that you don't have enough time to demonstrate what you are supposed to say, you don't have a chance to just to basically talk. So you need to interrupt. That's a normal thing, and that demonstrates your interactive skills. So please teach your students how to do that. Asking for clarification. When you don't understand something, sorry, I didn't get it. Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry, what do you mean? Well, at least some of these phrases can be very helpful during the exam. Exchanging ideas presupposes turn giving and turn taking. Well, yeah, it does. However, this is sometimes a skill that they have to be taught, because sometimes they see exchanging ideas is like, okay, I speak for 1 minute, then I say, what do you think? And you speak for 1 minute and say, do you agree? So this is not like a real interaction. So just they have to talk. Sorry, I can't think of a proper word for that. They have to talk for a shorter time. So this is when it's a better conversation, not just a monologue and a monologue. This is what I meant by exchanging ideas and turn taking and turn giving. And the last one, yeah, eye contact. I've already mentioned that. Okay, so if your students can do all these things, great. Again, someone mentioned showing interest. Really? Yes, really? Do you? That works. They don't really have to ask questions like, what, I don't know, have you ever done something? Have you ever eaten in a restaurant? Or what do you think is the best meal in a restaurant? Just some basic things. Really? Yes. Do you agree? That would be enough. Okay. Preparation strategies for this speaking task. So, first of all, when you see, to avoid eye contact, well, yeah, but still we're speaking about something more probably cosmopolitan, more general. So it's up to you. It's not assessed. I mean, eye contact. All right. So when we speak about preparation strategies, I do recommend following this algorithm. So first of all, when you start thinking about a topic, brainstorm some ideas before they start speaking during the preparation stage. Brainstorm the language that they can use, grammar and vocabulary. And then for each idea, you have to think of a reason and what language you can use for that. Also, always raise awareness of possible functions they can use, because sometimes they are too focused on vocabulary and grammar. They forget about functions, all this. Do you agree? What do you think? Oh, yes. So also put these phrases somewhere. They can be either on your walls or in front of them on some cards. So it's up to you. And of course, regular practice. So you can't learn how to do things if you don't practice them regularly. I think it's quite obvious, and sorry for saying these obvious things, but yes, you have to do that. Okay, when we speak about brainstorming, again, we have some suggested algorithm of brainstorming. So first of all, you have to provide the context of the topic, then provide the question. For example, do you like eating in restaurants, or where do you prefer to eat? Then some ideas. This is the stage where you have grammar and vocab. Then reasons, and then you have to practice. So this is what I've mentioned at the previous slide. So it's just more visual, and probably you can put this picture with the brain and then ask them to create something on like post-its, some ideas here, and put them into correct order, like advantages, disadvantages, ideas, and everything. Okay. There's an activity that I might recommend for practicing reasons and ideas. So you prepare 2 sets of cards, and you ask them to stand up. You distribute the cards. You ask them to stand up and mingle. So the main idea is to match the statement with the reason, the supporting argument. So, and as a result, you have new groups, and you can ask them to think of some continuation to this conversation, or to think of more ideas about it. So it's not really much fun, but it works. Because they have to communicate with each other, and they have to talk to each other a lot in order to find the best solution to the best match to their card. Okay, another activity is grab the word. So what I do, I put some cards with functions on the board, and I ask 2 students to talk about something. Yeah, I give them some picture prompts, and they have to grab some functions when they use them. So the main idea is to get as many cards with functions as possible. So the winner is the person who gets a lot of them. Of course, they have to be suitable. They have to be appropriate for the moment. So use the card only when it fits into the conversation. So a bit of competitive element works quite well. Okay. So if you need some more information, this is a direct link where you can find the handbooks and some helpful materials for preparation. It's both for key and for preliminary, and you can find them some sample papers. You can find there some videos with commentaries, so speaking part videos with some commentaries. Invaluable resource, to be honest, because it's not very common to see the commentaries from examiners. All right, and also if you need some more material, and if you would like to read more about key, so follow this link, please, and you will find an article written by my colleague Kиселева Евгения, who is also a Cambridge Assessment English methodologist, and you can find some more information here. So just basically follow this link. Okay, if you have any questions, Yes, you do. Let's have a look. Okay. So, any questions that you would like to? Okay. So, still, this was me. And if you have any questions, suggestions, complaints, you have my email. And you can write all your questions. I will be happy to answer. Probably not immediately, but I'll try to do it as fast as I can. If you have any questions about Cambridge exams, not just key or, I don't know, preliminary, please feel free to contact me on Facebook or by email. And thank you very much for being active. And I do hope that your students and your candidates will be the best during the exams. Okay, thanks a lot. So you will get the presentation and you will find something that you've probably missed.